Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister, get 10% off all of your purchases. The link to both of those sites is in the description. Without further ado, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're going to finish off the classes in Playtest 7 and talk about my favorite, the Warlock. The Warlock got a couple of buffs again. They seem to keep making the Warlock stronger and stronger and stronger, and I think that's mainly an attempt to get people to play the Warlock more throughout, as opposed to just taking one level to get Hexblade. I really think they buffed a lot of things. They made it more interesting. They definitely fixed a lot of the subclasses. Archfey and Great Old One has definitely evolved into a higher version of themselves, and I'm very excited about it because I love the theories behind them. And they did give the Warlock a lot more tools to use. I do feel like they're going to be a huge multi-classing class anyway. I feel like people are going to jump in and take a whole bunch of dips from them no matter what. But let's go into some of the things that I love and some of the things that I kind of don't like. And ultimately, some things that I really think is going to change the way people jump into this. First and foremost, you now get your Warlock invocations at level 1, which is very, very interesting. It's a new kind of way of doing things because it's one of the few features you get at level 1. And considering how it previously was like the Sorcerer or the Cleric, where you had your subclass from Jump Street, now you get it at level 3. So instead of that, you now just get your eldritch invocations, which is wild. And I'm going to kind of jump into this really quickly just to cover it as quickly as possible so we get it out of the way. First and foremost, your pact of the boon, pact of the blade, and pact of the tome, those pact boons you can now get at level 1. First and foremost, one of the things you're going to see a lot is people are going to get pact of the blade, obviously. It does the same thing it did before, except use your charisma modifier for the attack and damage rolls instead of using strength or dexterity, and you can change the weapon damage type to deal necrotic, psychic, or radiant. There are a couple of things that I happen to be pro about this. First and foremost, I like that idea. It's great. I think it's cool. I think having it like this is going to alleviate a lot of people multi-classing into the Warlock, because that's really what they want most of the time. But there is a feat that'll give you an Eldritch invocation, so you can play Variant Human or Custom Origin and just get this off the bat and not need to multi-class into Warlock, so you don't run a campaign where you have 6 players and 5 of them are Warlocks. I think it just makes things significantly better, and it gives that Warlock back that like special thing about being a Warlock and not being just something that you add into other classes consistently. That's just my personal take on that. The changing the damage type is actually pretty cool. So if you were a Great Old One, everything you do is psychic damage, and I think that's great. Pact of the Chain changed a little bit because now you can get a Slad Tadpole or a Skeleton. Pact of the Tome also changed a little bit because it gives you an additional level 1 spell slot. It always stays level 1, but having an additional spell slot means you can use that to cast Hex, which is a very big part of the Warlock subclass now, the Warlock all their classes. But it's a better feat. They did change Thirsting Blade's wording, so now you only get that extra attack using your pact weapon. So if you do dual wield, you don't get to make the extra attack with your offhand weapon. It always has to be your pact weapon. One of the bigger changes, and I think this is like just way too powerful, and I don't know why they did this, but they give you a new invocation called Lessons of the First Ones, and it gives you the ability to pick a feat, and this is repeatable, so you can get it multiple times. So if you roll stats and you happen to roll really, really high and you don't need a lot of ability score improvements, if you made it all the way to level 20, you could have 10 invocations. And say you went Pact of the Blade, you do need 2 for Thirsting Lifestealer and Thirsting Blade. Outside of that, that's 8 feats you can take for your character, which makes your Warlock insanely overpowered and overtuned with the amount of feats that they can take, the abilities, how you can greatly augment your base Warlock because of those feats. You can get everything from things like Great Weapon Master to upping your armor classes through feats. Tough, Warcaster. You could go above and beyond with these feats and really make yourself very, very, very powerful. One of the other things to note is Thirsting Blade. And I skipped over this a little bit, but I wanted to make sure to mention this. If you stick through and stay to be a Warlock at level 11, Thirsting Blade gives you 2 extra attacks. Hands down, this is powerful. The only characters that get 3 attacks are fighters that reach at level 11. A Warlock being able to do that, plus the amount of feats you can get by then, plus your normal Warlock abilities, plus Hex, plus changing the damage type to whatever you want to fit the circumstances, Warlocks are now profoundly dangerous. It's a huge thing. If you're using like a great weapon or two-handed weapon or like a pike or like a halberd or something, 3 attacks, huge. Eldritch Smite, guaranteeing you giving the opponent the prone condition. On top of you getting masteries on the weapon that you're using. It puts the Warlock in a very strong martial offensive kind of situation. It's deadly. And this really pulls it up to a new level, because you just have this insane damage bonus to additional attacks, plus Hex, plus whatever other abilities you have. Like it's really going to enforce that melee Warlock, which I like because I happen to like melee combat more than range combat. But it's more of a reason to stick to being just a Warlock, which is something I really love. Because, again, I'm not a big fan of multiclassing. I know I hear it constantly, and there's a lot of great arguments. And I love communicating with everyone that I have about multiclassing and building ideas and why I don't necessarily like it. And I understand now in greater detail from those conversations. And I'm very grateful for them. I do really enjoy, especially when my opinions are challenged. And I got to have like this great discussion about it. There's a bunch of videos in the comments that has a lot of that stuff going. And I'm grateful to all you guys who have participated. Thank you so much for not just getting angry at me, but actually taking the time out to discuss it. But this gives you a reason to just need more out of the Warlock than just being 3 levels now. And it really makes it very... It's a change that I'm really for, and I really, really adore. One of the things I really like is they're encouraging the relationship between Warlock and Patron. And it not just being something that just you make the deal and you never see them again. Now at level 9 you get Contact Patron, which gives you the ability to cast Contact Other Plane. The spell is prepared, and you could cast a spell without expending a spell slot to contact your patron, and you automatically succeed on the spell saving throw, which means you now have a reason to communicate with these deities, giving you an opportunity for a great roleplay opportunity, giving the DM a great way to influence the game in a way that makes a lot of sense and is tied into your character, and it makes your pact meaningful. It makes it purposeful. It makes it have a use out of something that's just written in your backstory and you never see come to fruition ever. It's a great dynamic, and I feel like it really fits well with the lore behind the Warlock. It's always been the way I see the Warlock, that your deal is not just something that you make off and then you just don't ever have to fulfill on. I think the Warlock's patron should be constantly grading on the Warlock and making their life miserable by increasing demands and things like that, and adding conditions to force them to do things for their own purpose. And now you have a reason to communicate, and it's a wonderful opportunity, and it's a high level ability, so you really should be encouraged to use it. One of the things I really want to talk about is the return of pact magic. Now, I love pact magic. I love pact magic in theory and the lore behind it, and I love it in practicality. Now, they had changed pact magic and made you a half-caster like a paladin or a ranger, and then you fell to the same rules where you got everything back on a long rest. And it looked like you had more spells and whatever. But a lot of people, especially like optimizers, have gone through the videos and done the math and came out with the fact that pact magic was a better system because you get more higher level spell slots throughout the day than you do if you just play through as a normal half caster like a paladin or a ranger. If you left the warlock with that half caster mentality, what would happen is you would step all over the toes of the paladin because of eldritch smite being better than smite, because it knocks them prone, so your next attacks have advantage. You have all the gifts and abilities that the warlock comes with that the paladin just doesn't have. Granted, auras are great and paladins are great in their own, but warlocks would now take a lot from that pool and just pull it directly into the warlock, because when you're a fiend pack warlock, you regain HP. You gain temporary HP every time you kill something or something around you dies now. That constant revolution of temp HP is a huge defensive bonus to you. And it happens every time. So you're fighting a lot of mobs throughout the day. Say you took 5 damage, but then something died and you had to level up that you could get more than 5 HP damage back. You're always in the plus. And it makes small little heals a bigger benefit to you than it would be for any other classes, because you can regenerate temp HP consistently. And considering the way the damage goes and combats goes, things should be dropping pretty regularly per turn. If you consider that, and then the paladin, you have a huge conflict of class viability because they're too close together. And you're now constantly going, well, if I don't want auras, then there's no reason for me to be a paladin. I should just be a warlock. And the amount of paladins in game greatly diminishes. Don't get me wrong, paladins have lay on hands and they have a whole bunch of bonuses. And I like paladins. I really enjoy playing them. I'm not trying to take away from them. But if the warlock stayed the way it was before, paladins would be such a rarity. To me, the return of pact magic is fantastic. I love the way it works. I like it for again, 2 reasons. A, I think mechanically it's a cool system. You only have a limited amount of spells. Spells are very powerful. So being able to use them in such a confined context, because you never earned that right. You were never magically gifted with that right. You didn't spend hours and hours devoting your life to a deity, continuously practicing or studying, or just being innately born with that talent and practicing and manifesting that as a sorcerer. You just made a deal and they just gave it to you. So you really don't know how to use it. You have no understanding outside of you can now just do this thing. So the fact that you can control it really makes it very cool. I love that idea that, like, as your power grows, so does your magic, but your magic can't be used to cast out a lower level spell slot. I like that mentality because it feels like you're an unstudied caster. Like you're undeserving of this power that you wield, and this power is great. And that feels perfect in my mind to what the concept of a warlock is. You made a deal for this. You were just like, oh no, help me. And they're like, yeah, sure, I'll give you this, but you gotta do something for me. And you're like, yeah, fine, great. Signed in blood, and you have the power, but your patron never trained you. Nobody trained you how to do that. You just have it. It's like a reflex. It's just like, you can just pull together these words and these motions and just release this energy by just focusing on the power within, and you do it. That's why it's charisma that's your spellcasting modifier and not intelligence or wisdom. It's a belief, it's confidence, it's the self manifesting its desires. And when you learn spells through the lore, you just pull it from the weave. Like through lore, you don't go, oh, I got stronger, let me just now learn fireball. Like you attune yourself to the weave, and you pull inspiration as you get stronger and your connection is stronger, and that inspiration comes to you in that form of the spell. That's why all wizard spells and notes look all different depending on what wizard wrote them. It's it's a great story behind the mechanical input of what pact magic is. And I love it. I love that concept. I love that idea of yeah, I'm strong. Yeah, I have a very powerful ability, but I still can't control it no matter how flashy I get. I'm always firing at top capacity. That's cool to me. That symbolizes the great difference magically between the warlock and the other casters. Because the warlock is a full caster, but it'll never be equal because it had to cut corners to get there. And I like that. That feels true to me. And that's why I'm so glad they brought pact magic back. I really, really, really love what they did. With all that said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close, and then we're going to do part 2 where we just jump into all the subclasses and why I love them. If you made it this far into the video, definitely hit like and subscribe. Definitely check us out on Patreon and check out our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister and get 10% off all your purchases. The link to both of those websites is in our description. Thank you so much for making it this far into the video. It means so much to us. Let me know what your opinions are. We'd love to hear about it. I'd love to discuss the Warlock. It is my favorite class in game. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.